You'll notice something the moment you finally let go. Your energy settles into a quieter, more deliberate state, and women begin responding to the grounded presence you reveal, rather than the fragmented version of yourself you showed when you were holding on too tightly. That shift isn't loud or dramatic. It unfolds in the background of your life, almost unnoticed, yet its impact is undeniable. What most men don't realize is that letting go isn't about withdrawing affection or playing emotional chess, but about freeing your mind from the constant tension of trying to manage outcomes you can't truly control. When you release that pressure, your thoughts become clearer, your reactions become slower, and you start moving through situations with a calm certainty that women feel instinctively, even if they can't name it. This change doesn't happen because you're trying to impress anyone. It happens because you rediscover the strength that comes from not negotiating with your own worth. As your emotional grip loosens, your internal world opens up, and the parts of you that were once anxious or uncertain begin to align into something steadier and more self-respecting. Women often interpret this as confidence or mystery, but at its core, it's simply the result of you returning to yourself. Many men never experience this transformation because they're too consumed by fear, attachment, or the subconscious belief that effort equals security. They don't realize that clinging pushes away what they're trying to keep close, while composure allows everything in their life, including relationships, to rearrange around their stability. But the fact that you're here tells me you're not interested in repeating those patterns. You're looking for clarity, emotional control, and a way to embody the kind of masculinity that doesn't waver when life tests it. If this resonates with you, consider subscribing, liking, or leaving a comment, because it helps this message reach more men who are also trying to rise into a clearer version of themselves. In a moment, I'm going to reveal the deeper psychological mechanism behind this shift, the reason your restraint, your silence, and your steadiness change how she perceives you and how you ultimately perceive yourself. Stay right here. The truth that ties it all together is coming next. The air around you begins to thicken with stillness, like the moment just before a storm breaks over a quiet lake. You walk into the room and everything else moves at a slower pace, almost like a film stretched slightly beyond reality. People notice your absence before they notice your presence. The fragmented reactions of those who chase validation ripple around you, visible to anyone with even a subtle sense of human behavior. You are no longer entangled in the invisible cords of expectation. You have returned to the axis of your own state, and the world, uninvited, tilts toward the gravity you carry. In a cafe, she laughs across the table with someone else, yet her eyes flicker toward you. It isn't intentional. It isn't calculated. She cannot name it, and perhaps she shouldn't, because this is the domain of instinct. She perceives tension and release, the silent language of composure, and a signal that some men are scarce in both presence and attachment. The mind, untrained in noticing subtleties, might miss it, but her subconscious tracks it like a pulse. The man who is free from clinging draws attention without a word. You are a paradox in motion, present yet ungraspable, engaged yet untouched by the flickers of desire around you. This is not a performance. It is a natural outcome of mastery over the impulses that make ordinary men frantic, noisy, or predictable. Ordinary men offer energy they do not own, leaving cracks where doubt seeps through, where women's perception tilts toward impatience or irritation. You, on the other hand, have returned to a state where energy is yours alone to command. And because you are whole, unhurried, and contained, the world, and she, responds. A man who grasps for control chases shadows. A man who grasps nothing draws light. And in this subtle inversion lies the first secret most never see. In your absence of need, there is an invitation to presence. It is neither a trick nor a game. It is the truth of human instinct. Attraction, respect, curiosity. These are not reactions to what is given freely, but to what is held steady, unmoved, unwavering in the currents around it. As you breathe, the world contracts and expands around your rhythm. Every glance that flickers, every small hesitation in conversation, every unnoticed shift in attention becomes a mirror reflecting your internal authority. Ordinary men would mistake this for luck, charm, or timing, but you feel it differently. This is causality in motion. The quiet mastery of your state manifests externally, visible only to those who are attuned to subtlety, who sense the pulse of power and restraint, who recognize the magnetic weight of self-possession. And still, this is only the surface. What you see, what she notices, what draws her closer, it is a shadow of a deeper principle, one buried beneath layers of instinct, subconscious perception, and the rhythms of human evaluation. That principle, when fully understood, changes not only how you are perceived, but how you move through every interaction, every environment, every encounter in life. It is the bridge between the ordinary and the composed, the chaotic and the unshakable. You feel the tension of waiting, of observation, of the mind noticing without revealing, because you are already moving through it with composure. The edge of anticipation is a familiar friend. It signals that something is about to unfold, a deeper clarity, a principle that binds cause and effect in human interaction, and an insight into attraction that feels more like revelation than advice. It is the story of restraint and presence, told not with words, but through subtle movement, through the space between gestures, through the rhythm of a controlled life. This is your first step into understanding the hidden grammar of influence, the language spoken without speaking, the magnetism that does not seek approval yet commands attention. And as you settle into this narrative, notice how ordinary men clamor for control and miss it entirely, while you, by simply existing in your own authority, begin to observe the world bending subtly toward you. Here, in this quiet observation, the tension thickens, the promise of insight, the anticipation of principle, the lure of mastery, all condensed into a rhythm that makes the ordinary man restless, while drawing the composed man deeper into understanding. Stay with me, because the patterns beneath this subtle power are about to unfold. And what you learn will not only shift her perception, but will recalibrate the way you move through the world itself. The moment you begin to exist from a place of steadiness, the world changes its rhythm around you, almost imperceptibly. Ordinary men move like pendulums, swinging between desire and anxiety, constantly signaling need in ways that women register instantly. Their attention is scattered, their words rushed, their gestures loud with expectation. She notices it, even if she cannot articulate why. Subconsciously, she maps instability like a landscape, recognizing every fissure of doubt and projecting it outward. Ordinary men cannot hide it. Their lack of internal control broadcasts itself before they ever speak. In contrast, your movements are measured, deliberate, and internally anchored. When you speak, your words do not merely occupy air. They create space, they suggest depth. The way you pause, how you allow silence to linger without fear, communicates a power that cannot be borrowed, forced, or mimicked. This is the invisible architecture of attraction, the tension created by presence without need, the magnetism of a man who exists in his own authority. She senses it instinctively because her mind is wired to detect the subtle cues of security and dominance, not through force, but through the quiet command of a controlled state. Consider a crowded room where the ordinary man jostles for attention, nods to every whim, and mirrors every reaction in the faint hope of approval. He believes engagement equals connection, yet the opposite occurs. Women, like all perceptive beings, respond not to the breadth of energy thrown at them, but to the refinement of energy that is owned. You, however, move through that same room with a calm that draws glances without intention. You do not chase, you do not perform. Your presence compresses the chaos around you, and she cannot help but take notice. The distinction is not theatrical, it is fundamental. The ordinary man radiates dependence. You radiate containment. One is loud, the other is magnetic. It is in these subtle contrasts that the psychology of female perception becomes vivid. Her mind observes micro-patterns, the way a man handles stillness, the restraint in his gaze, the absence of desperation in every movement. These are not conscious judgments. They are instinctual responses shaped by evolutionary design. Women are attuned to the consistency of states over time, the alignment of internal emotion with external action. A man who can maintain composure under tension triggers curiosity, stimulates projection, and evokes respect, often before a single word is exchanged. It is a calculus of attention, unspoken, yet profoundly effective. You begin to recognize how ordinary men sabotage themselves through inconsistency. A sudden burst of energy, a needy question, a forced compliment. These are the cracks in their armor, the signals of internal turbulence. And she notices everyone, even if she is smiling, even if her words suggest interest. Because attraction, at its core, is less about performance and more about perception. The composed man does not perform. He aligns. His internal gravity is a constant, unshakable by the whims of external interaction. The contrast is stark, and in that contrast, the psychology of attention, desire, and respect unfolds. Now imagine observing her mind in this context, as if peering behind a veil. She evaluates not only what is offered, but what is withheld. The absence of need creates a tension her subconscious cannot ignore. It forces a recalibration of value. She questions what she had assumed about attraction, about access, about emotional leverage. Ordinary men prompt instinctive boredom, even frustration, because their need is visible and their presence is borrowed. The composed man, however, inspires instinctive reassessment. Her curiosity grows not because she is manipulated, but because she is interacting with something rare, a state of being that mirrors self-possession. This is the paradoxical power of restraint, the invisible edge that ordinary men misunderstand and undervalue. Through this lens, the narrative of male-female interaction becomes a series of reflections and inversions. In one frame, a man clings, chasing reaction, anxious for acknowledgement. In the next, the same space is occupied by a man who steps back, observes, and maintains the rhythm of his own state. She responds differently each time, not to words or actions alone, but to the energy they convey. Your presence, anchored in calm authority, becomes a mirror for her evaluation, a barometer of subconscious attraction. It is not trickery. It is alignment, clarity, and the visible manifestation of inner discipline. And yet, the depth of this principle is rarely explored, even among those who study human behavior. The ordinary man sees rejection, withdrawal, or lack of attention as a threat. The composed man sees it as information, a reflection of the space he occupies in reality rather than perception. He does not bend, he does not negotiate. He observes the fluctuations of attention and responds only from a place of clarity, letting the natural dynamics of instinct and curiosity unfold around him. This is not arrogance, it is strategic serenity. Every micro-moment, every flicker of interest or dismissal, is a note in the unfolding symphony of perception, and he conducts it with restraint, not force. Consider the temporal loop of observation. One interaction feeds into another. Ordinary men accumulate micro-frustrations, creating tension that compounds unpredictably. Women respond to this dissonance with subtle withdrawal or impatience, often unaware of the precise cause. You, by contrast, carry no internal dissonance. Each encounter is isolated, free from the residue of prior need. The absence of accumulation is palpable. She senses it in micro-expressions, in the slight pause of her speech, in the curiosity that rises when she cannot predict your response. The ordinary man's chaos becomes a contrast that amplifies your composed state. Through these contrasts, she does not merely notice. She instinctively recalibrates, adjusting her perception to the stability you exemplify. Even in moments of silence, the psychology continues. A glance, a casual movement, a delay in engagement, all are data points. Ordinary men might panic at these cues, projecting insecurity into behavior that undermines their perceived value. You, however, allow them to exist without internal perturbation. Your equilibrium becomes the gravitational center on which other energies orbit. Women, attuned to these subtle currents, respond accordingly. Curiosity, attraction, and respect are generated not through effort, but through the invisible language of consistency and emotional sovereignty. This is the core of the paradox. The less you try to influence, the more the world, and she, is influenced by you. The cinematic rhythm of life begins to align with this truth. Moments stretch and compress around you. Interactions become a series of cause and effect reflections, and the ordinary patterns of attachment and anxiety dissolve in the presence of controlled energy. Through observation, restraint, and internal mastery, you begin to see the subtle architecture of attraction, the hidden logic of attention, and the silent power of composure. Each micro-behavior of ordinary men, each instinctive response of women, becomes a teaching instrument. You learn, adapt, and remain anchored while the world flutters around you, responding not to manipulation, but to alignment. The shadows of ordinary behavior cast light on your state. Where others reveal need, you reveal sovereignty. Where others echo emotion, you reflect stability. Where others fracture under expectation, you hold form. And she sees it always. Sometimes consciously, often unconsciously, but inevitably. Curiosity, intrigue, and subtle attraction rise not because of charm or force, but because of the quiet, relentless logic of a man who is whole unto himself. This is the psychological mechanism that ordinary men overlook. The composed state is itself the stimulus, the attractor, the principle that governs attention, desire, and subconscious evaluation. And even now, as these dynamics unfold around you, there's a deeper layer waiting, a principle buried beneath instinct, perception, and subtle cause and effect that will reveal why all of this works, not as theory, but as lived experience, as a force that transforms the ordinary interactions of life into a mirror of your mastery. As you move deeper into this awareness, you begin to understand that true influence is not built on pursuit, argument, or display, but on the inner equilibrium that others instinctively adjust themselves around. Her reactions, the subtle shift in tone, the curious pause, the sharpened attention, are not rewards to chase, but signals revealing how your state shapes the emotional field between you. The principle is simple. The man who governs his own impulses quietly governs the space. This is where the dynamic becomes unmistakable. The ordinary man explains himself endlessly, hoping to be understood. You, however, speak with intention and leave the rest untouched, allowing her mind to fill the gaps with her own projections. Mystery is not crafted. It is the natural consequence of restraint. And in that silent gap, respect grows, curiosity deepens, and the entire psychological balance tilts in your favor, not through force, but through the calm certainty of a man who refuses to betray his own center.